Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And on Spotlight, we are always doing our very best to bring to you persons whose contributions are driving our community in the direction of light. Now, we are still at the beginning of the year, and so still shaping perspectives. And one of the things that we really, I'm sure we are doing our best to do is make sure that we win this year. Now, the exams also have just been released for our schools, and there are a lot of winnings, and social media and also mainstream media is full of a lot of winners. And so this is a time to, the area of winning and not winning is a big subject right now, and that's exactly what we're going to be discussing on this edition of Spotlight, winning and losing. And to help us in this engagement is Flash Mburu. Flash Mburu is a psychologist who also is the founder of As a Life. And she has a great passion to help in terms of life and making sure that we live life in the right way and also a life of faith at the same time. And so we want to welcome again Flash Mburu from As a Life. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right. And viewers, always, you're part of this conversation. Remember that. And just engage us on the social media platforms also. On the WhatsApp line that's provided there, do let us know what you feel about this conversation and specifically about winning and losing. All right. So welcome to Spotlight.
Asante Sana.
Flash Mburu.
Yes, thank
welcome.
you. Thank you very much.
You know, when you talk about psychology, it's for quite some time, the discipline of psychology was hidden.
Right.
And the area of mental health also was not so much in the surface. But in the recent past, one of the big frontiers is now the frontier of psychology, the frontier of mental health. And of course, there was earlier on seen as areas or an aspect of life that was not easily accessible, just expensive maybe. But you can comment about that, the accessibility of psychology services, and also the front lining now of mental health.
Right. Psychology has become a big thing only now. Otherwise, before it was this mystery, this animal. What is psychology? Psychology is going mad, nikuchizi. So first of all, you would hide if you're seeing a psychologist, if you're seeing a therapist. You go like Thomas, you know, the way Thomas went to see Jesus at night. So everyone was very scared of going to see a psychologist. So psychology is basically, in a nutshell, the study of behavior, human behavior, in a nutshell. And of course, mental health. Again, when we say mental health, you are seeing a mental health practitioner. It doesn't mean you are going nuts or you are necessarily depressed, which you can see because of that, but not necessarily that. So I am excited as years go by that people are embracing mental health, getting to understand mental health and mental health disturbances and things to prevent you from being disturbed. People are beginning to embrace psychology. Even if you're not a psychologist, I can see many people studying psychology. They are taking interest, especially the young people, which is an amazing thing. So what we do as psychologists, we help people struggling with mental health issues. A mental health issue, Rev, may be something like you've been on holiday, December, gone to Mombasa, Hawaii, wherever. For 2 weeks, you took a break, and you're going back to work on Monday, and you're thinking, no, how will I start coping? It's a mental health issue. The fact is you're not yourself. And it doesn't hurt to see a therapist to say, this is what I'm feeling, I need, and I'll tell you what you're feeling is normal. So it was a mental health issue. You didn't have to be depressed. You didn't have to be stressed. So basically, that's what we do. Of course, again, we deal now with this other serious stuff like depression, bipolar, anxiety, name it. But I'm just trying to diffuse that mental health issues does not necessarily have to be that dark place. It can be anything that is making you not become normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
or just feel like you're out of balance.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And our society today, Flash, is, from a cultural point of view, it's high pressure. It's high pressure society because we know the winners. Now, we're talking about, let's take the young people, for instance. If you post something on social media and it doesn't receive a lot of reception,
Likes.
likes and all those and subscriptions, you feel, oh, I'm not winning. You know, I think I'm invisible. People don't like me. I'm not popular. So we have a high pressure culture that is really a culture for winners, people who win.
Yeah.
And if you fail, it looks like you've done something really wrong. Something wrong you're doing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
as if failure is something that is, unwelcome. You know, you are to blame actually,
Yes.
because, and you kind of, you better sidestep, let the winners, you know, do their thing,
Yeah.
right? So just help us to understand, a culture that operates on that kind of winning mentality. How do you engage it?
Now, it's a very dangerous thread and trend, this winning culture. Because the fact of the matter is, you may not win all the time. You can't win all the time. Jesus, when he was on the cross and he said, take this cup from me, he doesn't sound like he was winning. That was not a winning story. But God let him go through it. So if Jesus himself could not win everything, who are we? Now, it's a very dangerous culture that is making people get depressed, lose hope, commit suicide, and we need to understand failure is part of life. And I'm not just saying that as a cliche. It really is part of life. And there are people who say, there's something in psychology we call negative positivity. I know it's a paradox. How can you be negative and positive? But I am a great champion of positive negativity. What am I trying to say? If you are supposed to be in studio at 11 and you live an hour's drive from your house, give yourself 1.5 hours. Stuff happens. Now, there is a school of thought which will say, stop being negative. Why are you giving yourself 1 hour? What is your faith? Be positive. But the fact is, stuff happens. So give yourself half an hour extra. That is what I'm saying. You need a certain level of, for lack of a better word, skepticism and negativity to prepare in the event of something. That answers your question about failure. Failure is with us. And failure is not such a big deal. What you do with that failure, now that is what matters. What you do with the failure. You can either stand up, rub the dust, move on, and learn the lesson, or you can get stuck in that failure. And that is where it becomes an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I like what you've said, that failure should be a normal kind.
It should be a normal failure. Yeah.
But when you fail, and a society that doesn't have systems to support those people who fail, but it has systems to quickly pick up those people who are succeeding.
Yeah.
So you kind of, it's like success is a public affair, but failure is a private affair.
Correct.
So a community that doesn't have systems of supporting the people who fail, I mean, what is one supposed to do when they fail?
Now, first of all, I'm glad we're having this show because this is stuff that people should talk about and psychoeducate the community about failing. Failing is a platform to learn what you did wrong and what you can do to right it, to make it right. Some failures are actually a blessing because they also keep you humble. And let us get into the context of so many things, like, let's say, exam. There are many people who fail, in quotes, KCPE or KCSE. Let's go KCPE. You fail KCPE, you go to the school you did not want, and guess what? You make it to campus. Either that failure hit you so hard, it woke you up, or you are ashamed that you need to you have a point to prove to your shamers. So it becomes a motivator. Or you realize this is not, education is not my thing. So as a parent, you learn to embrace your child because you've seen the frustration they've gone through. Let's not even talk about school. Even at work. Sometimes you fail at a task and it costs the company so much. If you're given a second chance, half the time those people are the ones who become employees of the year. Because you want to make up so much for your mistake that you outdo yourself. That's why I'm saying it all depends on how you view failure.
Now, Flash, when you're still at it, sounds like one is supposed to have their own failure response mechanism.
Yes, yes.
Which is quite uninteresting because we're supposed to be a community. Now, just asking, you don't have to struggle. You know, when you win, there's no struggle. The system picks you up. Like there's a way of celebrating. But how can one go ahead and beyond the person, your own person, and a private reconstruction system, how can one, because sometimes even your own system is collapsed, you know, you cannot pick up yourself. But how can one create a system around themselves such that in case of failure, or not in case, actually when failure comes, because it's just a matter of time, they have a place to land. How do you create a system around you?
A soft landing.
Just a system, a network, a structure around you to support, to be ready for you when you fail.
Okay. One, be genuine. Be very genuine. Because the problem is we are phony. We are phony with ourselves. You know, you can cheat yourself so much that you actually believe the phony you. So be very true to yourself. Number two, be true to people. So that mwenye anakuacha, the person who is leaving you because you just said the people who succeed, you succeed in public and you fail privately. When you fail, you are on your own. So be so genuine. So that those who think they can't take you, the authentic you, the sooner they dump you, the better. The problem is, again, as society, we want to hang out with the winners. So we pretend to be like them. So when our true colors come or when we fail, of course, naturally, we are going to be dumped. So let us start by being authentic with ourselves. And then we will attract authentic people. The other thing, be intrinsically motivated. Whether people shout, you know the narrative about the frog that was deaf and it was lagging behind, but it still finished and it became #1. And when it was asked how come, and then people are booing you, it was realized he was deaf, he couldn't even hear. So again, you have to be so intrinsically motivated that it doesn't matter what people say when you fail. The problem is there is always a second chance. In fact, we have a God of second chances. The problem is we don't listen to God, we don't look at our dream and our potential. We are so invested in what people will say that we lose the focus. We lose the focus. So be genuine. You'll have genuine friends. If you have genuine friends, whether you fail, whether you are winning or losing, they'll be there for you. They will be there for you.
All right.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Authenticity.
Both on your part.
Yes.
And on the part of your friends.
Yes.
So that they know you.
Exactly.
They know you through and through.
Yeah.
That's a insightful thing to know. You mentioned exams because this is that time when people are still processing. They're still in that psychological place of the grade they got, for instance, the young people, not just them but their families as well. Let's start with the acers. You know, those guys who aced it.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure they are on a high, and they should.
Yeah.
But Flash, is there a bad way or a bad way of handling the A? Like, can you handle it? It's nice, a nice grade, but can you handle it badly?
Yes. Oh, yes. You brag. You know the way we say it got to your head? And this goes for the student and the parent. And not so much the student, actually. The parent is the one who determines how this can go. and the damage it can do psychologically to the A student because of winning. I know you are wondering, how is winning and damage in the same sentence? Yes, it can mess them up. It gets into their head. The parents cheer you, and with due respect, congratulations, parents and kids who did well, you all deserve it. However, you need a certain level of humility. And when I'm saying humility, I'm not saying don't tell me how you got an A. You got an A, you deserve it, you worked for it. So tell me, but there's life after the A. There's a character we want after the A. Remember, the Bible says, humble yourself before the Lord and he's going to lift you up. Remember cases of people like Nebuchadnezzar who bragged, and you see what happened to them. This can be a deal breaker. How you receive that A can be a game changer on the student's personality. Personality. Because we can pump someone so much. What are we doing? One, you are going to the big schools where you are finding other A students. So here we have pumped you and pumped you. Then you find there is an A who is even better than you. After the first Form 1 exam, you realize you are not the top. With all the accolades you got, with all the pumping, what do you think it's going to do to you? What do you tell mom that you are not the best in class? What will mom feel? What will she tell you? I mean, you are caught in a catch-22. What does that do to your kids' ego? You told them they are the best. Fine. But in what context? They have found better. Then what are you doing even in life? Their person. Because they won't always be the best. We have said failure is part of us in any aspect, whether it is dating or exams or whatever. There will have to be failure. So what happens when they fail? They can't take it because you pumped them up so much that failure, they feel they have failed as a person. So what you need to do is congratulate that child and tell them they have done well. But this is just a beginning. Prepare them that they are going to school and they are going to find people at the same, they're at par. A's are going to the A schools. There is a class of A's. So let them know that even do your best, be the best, but remember, son, daughter, you are still my child, and be humble about it. Especially when you meet those who didn't do very well in the village. Your cousins who didn't do very well. Your friends who didn't do very well in church. Please, be humble. Cheza chini. Yeah, be empathetic.
You know, when you're talking about humility, be humble.
Yeah.
There's a school of thought, Flash, that says modesty is not good. You know, modesty is not a good thing.
All right.
Please, just live in your zone.
Blow your trumpet.
You know, just live in your zone. I mean, this humility is sometimes wrong.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And sometimes some may, of course, they've aced it. But they are all the way on the modest zone. Like, you know, chilling.
Yeah, don't talk about it, yeah.
You know, but they are afraid. This is the kind where they are afraid of just celebrating. They are afraid of just owning up that you've done it.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And that's the kind of modesty I'm talking about. That they have it's not a forced humility, but it's a kind of a fear.
Yeah.
It's a feeling that you are not licensed to celebrate.
Yes, I hear you. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, if you're a psychologist, you will call it imposter syndrome. It's called imposter syndrome, where you don't believe you're so good. You don't believe you deserved it. You're even thinking it was a fluke that I got an A. This is not me. These are not my grades. You know, he went to Alliance and the Alliance guy is thinking, shh, just don't do it. It's called imposter syndrome. You are so good, but you actually don't believe you're good. It's called imposter syndrome. And yes, there are many who have that. But what I can tell you, celebrate your child. You who did well, celebrate yourself. Even in the office, celebrate yourself. Just do it in humility. I know you are going to ask me, where is the line? Where do you draw the line? If you are celebrating at the expense of other people, be sensitive, be empathetic. From the way your news is received, it may not be overt. Body language. If I'm bragging to you about how my daughter did so well, she was the best in the division and she was level, and I'm just, I should be able to tell we are not on the same celebratory mode. Change the subject quickly. Let's move on and talk about something else. Be very sensitive. Even as a student, if you're bragging and your cousins are not on the same vibe, move on. You can mention. If the audience doesn't pick, drop it.
Okay.
Drop it. Whether you are promoted at work and you're telling your friends and they didn't pick it, drop it. It takes humility to be empathetic. Put yourself in that person's shoes. Remember, it's your victory, not ours. I don't have to celebrate you. Stop forcing all my it down my throat. You'll make enemies. In fact, very many people have made enemies, parents, students, because you are rubbing it off on people. You need to be humble, be empathetic. Not everyone got that A. Not everyone is celebrating. So don't rub it in.
You know, when you emphasize humility, I do remember somebody saying that it's easier to make it to the top than it is to get the humility when you are at it.
Yes.
You know, that humility is a quality sometimes when you are successful. Is a difficult quality to have. It doesn't come naturally. You know, it's a struggle because pride is always, you know, stinging. Pride is fast. No, it's fast at the door.
It is.
And humility comes out of a reflection as compared to a reflex, right?
I like that. It comes as a reflection, not a reflex. In fact, there is something we keep saying. If you want to know someone is really humble, give them power, give them money. For the kids, give them those grades. Give them that top. How they react tells you the true colors of somebody. Yeah.
You know, those are the A's. Let's talk about the opposite. People who feel that they did poorly. And that I think there are two. We can put them in two categories here. There are those who are shocked that they actually did poorly. They cannot relate at all.
They didn't see that coming.
You know, they can't relate with what they have.
Yeah.
We've seen that even in some media houses. But there are others who are not shocked. They're like, oh, this is my zone. It's been my zone. I'm not shocked. This is it. Just speak to them.
Let's talk about the zone of where they are shocked. They are still in unbelief. Something happened. It must have been marked wrong. It must have been, yeah. Now, how the parents of this, it's bad enough they are shocked. They are in a very bad space. Some denial, some acceptance, but hating themselves. The guardian, the parent, is a very great determinant of how long this will ride, this feeling will ride, and how they are going to perform and moving forward emotionally. So what I can say is for these students who are shocked and disappointed at themselves, I'm saying this with a pinch of salt, they need to move on. I say it with a pinch of salt because I'm not saying move on. I'm saying move on. Don't get stuck there. What is the plan B? Again, I keep saying, having a plan B does not mean you have no faith. People need to stop confusing this thing, Rev. Have a plan B. When the Bible says a wise woman stocks whatever in case of a rainy, she has a plan B. She can see a day will come where I need to go back to the store. So I hope there is a plan B and quickly switch to plan B. I was supposed to go to this provincial school. I think nowadays they are called sub-county. So I'm not going to go to sub-county. I'm going to go to the, whatever, this other county school. Parent, guardian, start telling your child it is okay. Your aim was campus. You can still go to campus, even at the county. All is not lost. It's not like there is no school which is going to open the gate for you. You get? Even if it is about a career that needs you to go to campus. Nowadays, you go, pass, you may not make it to campus, start with a certificate, do a diploma, do a degree. I know people who have done masters and they never went straight to campus. So don't beat themselves, or beat yourselves so much that I did not do that well. It does not work like that. You can always, there is always plan B and quickly move to Plan B. For the parent, stop shaming this child. If you shame them now, they will carry that shame forever. Let's come to this one who did badly and they knew. I mean, these are my results. This is what I mean. Again, I'm very proud of that person who has accepted. I hope the guardians understand that they did their best. Again, move on. Nowadays, we have TVET. We have TVET. And let me say this, Rev, and I hope the audience will listen. This story of repeating, making a child repeat, unless they want to repeat, have a discussion, and they say they want to repeat because they think they can do better. If it comes from them, hallelujah. If it does not come from them, parent, stop pushing this student. Stop telling them, I know if you repeat, you don't know. You are not the one who's sitting that exam. You are not the one in their head. So move on. Again, let them go to college or go to the school they've been called to or a private school better. There are opportunities. They can still be what they wanted to do from where they are at. Just guide and mentor. But repeating, I know people who have repeated and gotten worse. And it's a disaster. And the blame game starts. You are the one who made me repeat. But you see, if it's them who repeated on their own accord, then you're just like, well, don't repeat again because it's easier than if you are the one who actually made them repeat.
Yeah. All right. And you've mentioned quite a bit about parents.
Yes.
And parents sometimes shaming their children, and sometimes also, of course, they celebrate. But what we're getting there, Flash, is the sharing of the success of their child with the parent, such that they're shareholders. I'm using a political word. You know, they're shareholders, such that when a child succeeds, I mean, the parent could be carrying the child shoulder high, but they feel that they are the ones actually being carried shoulder high by their child. At the same time, when a parent has really invested in a child, and then the results did not, the investment did not return as expected. Again, now there's a dissociation with the child, and it can get rough. It can get rough, and sometimes the child is told repeatedly, you know, that you let me down. The other one is told, oh, you are my crown. You know, you're my crown. You've made me proud. Now, just speak more directly to how a parent should relate to the failure and success of their child.
Now, in psychology, when we talk about families, there's something we call the golden child. There are people who have suddenly become the golden child. You are normally not you didn't get the attention of the family, you were ignored even during this exam time. It was not a big deal. You are kind of the black sheep. You're not a big deal. Until you aced, and suddenly, instead of being called Mama John, now I'm being called Mama whoever. And all along, this child has been ignored because now she's the A student, which is very wrong. And then again, this Mama John has not done so well, and you don't want association. And you are telling John, don't even go to church for the first 1 month. Let people forget about this exam. I don't want to be seen with you. You are no longer sending him to wherever. And John even had a very bad New Year's Day. Remember, exams came before New Year. So what I can tell parents, don't have a golden child. Even this John who has aced, let there not be preferential treatment. All kids, a child is a child. Grades don't define you. I know people who have made it and they never went to campus. I know people who have made it and they were not A students and they are employing A students. And I'm not saying this in any way to water down those students who have done well. But there is a God in heaven and he has a way of equalizing and neutralizing stuff. Education is a gateway to a lot of things. But let me just pour some water on that same sentence. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. This person who didn't do so well may have talent, business acumen. There are some business serious people who have never gone to a business class. Every child has an opportunity, deserves love, deserves comfort, deserves a chance in life. You may not be very good in education, you are good in something else. That is just the way God has wired us. So ask yourself, what can this child do? Where do I need to support them? Support them, you will be surprised.
Okay.
You will be surprised. Yeah.
All right. And talking about A's and other grades, we're talking about an academic identity.
Yes.
Which is, as you say, a small section
Very small.
of the person.
Yeah.
But as much as it's a small section, it's glorified in our society such that even homes have reputation.
Yeah, yeah.
For instance, hey, that home.
Everyone has a PhD.
Everyone, exactly. You know, that other home, you know. But in terms of branding and your identity as a person, using this academic identity, sometimes we do call ourselves dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we do call ourselves, you know, witty people.
Yes.
And that becomes your entire identity.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you can tell us about where the academic identity should fit in the identity of the entire person.
In the entire person. Okay. Now, if like now you are Dr. Furi.
Should I be modest about that? Anyway, on a light note.
And it's funny, you don't even brag your doctor. Probably some people have heard right now that you're actually Dr. Furi. And you see, there is where you use Dr. Furi. And that's where it's not relevant. There are people I will introduce you to as this is Dr. Furi, and there is someone, there are people I will say this is Reverend Furi, and there are people I will say this is my friend Eddie. It all depends on context. So I am in circles where people drop those names of Daktari, and I'm thinking, oh please, give me a break. Inakujia wapi hapa? There are people who want to introduce me. This Flash, my friend, you know, she's a psychologist. I'm thinking, stop it. Because sometimes it makes people uncomfortable depending on the context. So there is pride, and society we have elevated. We have found that because I will respect you more if you are Dr. Furi than if you're just Eddie. That's something we need to stop. We have lost so many good friends because we ignored them. How many times have you gone to places and you're just part of the crowd until someone says, hey, doc, and suddenly everyone wants to know you. Hey, my name is so-and-so, and they give you business card. Suddenly now you recognize me. I think society needs to kill that vibe. We need to stop elevating people because of status. If only we looked at people as people. Give everyone a chance. There are people who are so educated, but not intelligent. So educated and not wise. They don't even use common sense. So I think we need to, with due respect, get educated, get your credentials, but hey, there's more than just credentials. Credentials are a very little percent. And half the time, your credentials are not relevant to 80% of people in your circle. So don't give us credentials. Be you. And that is what I would want people at work, students, families, just be you. Drop the credential. Drop the credential.
All right.
Yeah.
You mentioned work, Flash, and
yes.
I also know that you have HR experience.
Yes.
A wide one.
Yes.
And, which you shouldn't be modest about. You know?
All right.
But there is always, again, this is a common statement, that the employers, when people get to a workplace, that the academic identity sometimes, whether you are, especially you are a graduate, you've come from the University of Nairobi or another university, and then you get work based on your first class or your second class upper, all that. And you look like you got it. But more and more, employers are saying that's really a small percentage of what we want.
Yeah.
It's a small consideration of what we want.
Yeah.
In the workplace, how does this academic dimension work or not work?
Not work, okay. Now, when we go to campus, we graduate with disciplines. Whether it's at PhD level, whatever. We graduate with a certain discipline. And I keep saying there is a reason they say discipline. Because it's more about what you learned academically, but more importantly, from a HR perspective, it's more about that journey. How did it change you as a person, that discipline that you got? Many people, especially star students from campus, there are two categories. There are some who don't perform and don't succeed probation because they came with that attitude. I'm a first class with I don't know what from university. So instead of working, you think that degree is the one that is going to work for you. So you actually don't deliver. The diploma or the second class, they know this person is a first class. So they have more to prove and they deliver. If this one succeeds and they get confirmed and this other one confirms, I can bet you, Rev, do your research. Years later, the diploma, the second class, is the boss of the first class. And that's why you find a lot of toxicity at work, because these first class people have bragged a lot about their first class. So come promotions, if you are hired at the same level, this one is promoted because they delivered, but you are still, your hand was still, you got stuck at the first class. And you're thinking, how did this happen? He worked hard. He was humble. He knew he's competing with a first class, but first class got to his head. So I think employers, that's why we do these interviews on EQ and IQ and those tests we do, attitude tests, because this is not about the papers. This is about you as a person. And that's why I said papers take a very little percentage. Life is more about after the papers. After the papers. Okay. It's easy to teach an E student than an A student when it comes to life and discipline at work. Which
is very interesting. And we'll engage this before we go for the break. We invest a lot in terms of money, in terms of time, in the academic dimension. But then you were telling us that when you get to work, the academic qualification is historical.
Yes.
What is present tense is the work.
Is the work
that you're doing.
Yes.
Right? Now, at this time when we are also thinking about the years to beginning, and people are thinking about promotion, thinking about advancement, thinking about how do I get better, especially in a workplace. What are, in addition to my academic strength, people also talk about the schools they went to.
You're dropping names.
You drop names. In addition to that academic dimension, what are some other key areas that we should invest in so that we can be holistically successful?
All right. Manners.
Oh, that came fast.
I know. Pure, basic manners. Social etiquette, professionalism. You are an A student from Daystar, Africa, Nazarene, USIU, whatever. That's history. Now you are in the payroll. Hard work, discipline, time, deadlines. These are things we don't talk about. We are still stuck at how you are an A student and how I employed a student from Harvard. But guy comes late, HR is always, you open the laptop, it can always automatically do a show cause for so-and-so because yet you are from Harvard. So I think organizations need to harp on induction number one after orientation and terms and conditions and policy and SOP, whatever. Let's talk about soft skills, like simple, basic manners. Coming on time, meeting deadlines. In fact, preferably before deadline, deliver that thing. If you want to get those promotions. Perfectionist of work, quality of work, dressing. Even if you are a laid-back organization, there is a certain degree of casual. You can, whatever. Language. Fine, you can speak that stuff Gen Z is talking, it's fine, but to a certain extent, keep it professional. You don't want to get an email that you are thinking, you are calling your teenager, So these are things an organization needs, and intrinsic. They need to be told about intrinsic motivation. You can't keep being supervised. You can't keep being supervised. Your boss will get tired of checking, have you, did you, be in, ujitume, be in. These are things that people need to be taught. The degree won't teach you that. So these are things. As finance management, you'll be paid the salary. What happens? You are buying a car and then you are hungry, you're almost fainting if the company does not give you lunch. Things that we overlook, because these are young people, excited about a new job and whatever. But the next thing you are broke, you are on loans from here to wherever. Then you start being psychologically disturbed because you couldn't manage your money. These are things organizations, sometimes they skip because they probably think they are being too intrusive, but tell these kids these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking from what you've talked about, it's like we need to go to a whole different school. After we've gone to the school that gives us an A in terms of academics, we need to go to a whole different school.
It's a whole new world.
To also score good in that other school as well, in life.
Yes.
And again, thinking from just what you've said, that it's possible for you to be academically an A, but some element of life has an E in it, and it totally brings you down.
Correct.
You could also have an E grade in terms of your academics, but in terms of the way you conduct yourself at work could make you an award-winning employee at the same time.
Correct.
Which is very interesting. No, it's a very interesting perspective here, and so time runs so fast. This will be our final question.
All right.
I hope we can come back and just do more of this. But let's go back to just faith, because failure and success, people pray, people fast, people do all that, and sometimes people have problems with God, especially if they fail. Yeah. You know, they didn't do as well as they wanted to. While others never prayed, never had a lot of faith stuff, but they succeeded. So in this life of success and maybe not succeeding as well, how does faith, how should we locate faith?
All right. Now, speaking of faith, is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for good, not evil, to give you a hope and a future. So hang on to that verse. Remember, God is sovereign. So don't be mad with him for allowing that person who does not pray or even go to church to do well, whether it's exams or work or whatever. He's a sovereign God. He does. The Bible says he does what he wants. So have faith that he has good plans for you. And that's why I'm saying exam is a very little percentage. Trust God for future. Believe in him. We say, if you have little faith, like a mustard seed, you will please God. And if you have no faith, you will not please God. So God is not saying that you have that faith that can move a mountain. He's just saying you have that little faith that will move the mountain. Start with where you are at. The past is gone. Let us, again in humility, move on. What can you do with this E? What can you do with this job that you've gotten that is so little? This is not what you expected. You can do with it. God asked Moses, what do you have in your hand? That is where we should start. There is hope. There is hope because there is a God in heaven. There is hope. You watch him and see what he can do.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Flashborough. I hope that we can come back
and
deal with more of this really life issues, and your perspectives are very enlightening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And viewer, thank you always for being part of Spotlight, and lots of things to pick from our conversation today. And I mean, just like Flash has ended it, wherever you are at, there's always hope, because we are a journey and God has a plan. And because God has a plan, we keep walking. And as Flash has told us, we keep moving on. This has been Spotlight.